Sometimes I get that feeling, whether it's somebody that's running for politics or it's a brand new car that Toyota has come out with, or if it's a video game console, that you're always going to have skeptics and you're always going to have people that are looking to find something wrong, even where nothing is wrong. And you can really feel that creeping into Nintendo's world these days. It's almost to the point where it's starting to remind me of Donald Trump's election campaign. Now, I'm not here to criticize Trump. I'm not here to not criticize Trump. But I just got a chuckle out of remembering the time when he was criticizing John Kasich because he ate a cheeseburger the wrong way. He wasn't using a fork and a knife, and he looked like a complete pig. Well, does it really matter if a presidential candidate eats like the Queen of England? And in the same sense, I feel like there's people out there that are in full-on attack mode, attacking everything that Nintendo has shown about their future. Even myself, I have some criticisms of the Switch, but since it's been so well covered and over-covered how many little issues there might be with the system, I'm going to focus more on some of the most ridiculous criticisms. And I'm not saying that the online system of using an app is perfect, but I think we should take a look at what some of the reasons are that Nintendo may have decided to go in this direction, because Nintendo isn't a company to just make a boneheaded decision without having thought it through. They think through everything that they do. So when it comes to using an app for your online voice chat, for your text messaging of your friends that are online, your matchmaking, creating lobbies, first of all, to me it seems pretty cool. I think that on PlayStation and on Xbox, especially for a new user, it can be pretty confusing when you're getting these party chats and some random dude that's connected to some other person that happens to be in your party at the time jumps in and you have no idea how to block that person from jumping in. I think that on an app, it's going to be a lot easier to see the privacy settings and to make the adjustments that you want. But my main question is, why would Nintendo not make it optional? It seems as though at this point, we're not 100% sure, but it looks like it's going to be an app or nothing for advanced online features. And I think the first reason why Nintendo may be wanting to do this is simply because they're trying to drive people into using Nintendo's app. You know, maybe they'll integrate the app as well into some of their mobile games, and once they have people in the app, they can advertise their Switch games or the Switch system to them, or other systems that they come out with in the future. And it could be a good way to keep all Nintendo fans connected in one area. I think it also could be a cool thing because when you send somebody a message on PlayStation, they may or may not receive those messages on their phone unless they have the mediocre PlayStation app installed. But using an app for all of the online will ensure that everyone that is serious about online gaming on Nintendo has access to the mobile app on their mobile device. So you could actually set it up to notify you potentially when your friends come online. Even if you're not at your console, you'll be able to receive messages from them and certain push notifications, which could be useful. Probably the criticism that I find to be the most humorous is people that say, well, great, I already use Skype for all of my online chat. Okay, so basically what you're telling me is that the direction that Nintendo is headed is actually your preferred method. You bypass online services to use an app on your phone. But only in this case, it will be a lot better because you're already having to go and set that up on your phone to use Skype, but now you'll be able to do so much more on your phone and you won't have to jump back and forth for one part of your online experience and another. And it's going to be so much better to have your app, which is what you prefer, linked to your console. So when you play somebody online, you could potentially, depending on how Nintendo sets it up, invite someone that you just played into your app. Imagine trying to do that with Skype. You would have to send that person a message and be like, hey, are you one of the 1% of people who prefer to use Skype for voice chat? And if so, I would be interested in becoming your friend on Skype. It makes no sense at all. The other area that I think is probably the biggest area that we need to delve into is the fact that the system is only as powerful as it is. And it only has 4 gigs of RAM, which isn't that bad if the majority of it is being used for gaming. Let's say they can find a way to make it 3.5 gigs of the RAM being used for games. Well, that's actually a lot closer to Xbox One and PlayStation 4 at that point. In Sony's case, 3.5 gigabytes of RAM is reserved for the operating system. In Xbox's case, it's 3 gigabytes that are reserved for the operating system. They also reserve 2 cores of the CPU on each system, and I believe they may even reserve some of the GPU. So there's a lot going on in a modern gaming operating system. Remember how the PS3 wasn't capable of doing cross-browser chat because of how much of a drag it puts on the system's power, and you have to set RAM and other things aside for it ahead of time. So when you look at how much is being reserved for the operating systems on these other systems, you almost have the makeup of the entire specs of the Nintendo Switch. So do you want to play a Switch where half of the CPU and half of the RAM isn't even being used for games? There's a lot of good features coming to the system. I mean, we're getting all of the online features by the looks of it. And at some point, you're going to be able to record and somehow share video by pressing the share button on the controller. So if it's going to be competitive at all with the level of service you get on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, they're going to have to make some cuts somewhere. And personally, I think this is maybe a good place to do that, because it's going to be, I think, pretty convenient to use your mobile phone. I mean, most people these days, myself included, are very comfortable pausing their game and checking a text and things of that nature. It's something that a lot of people do in their daily lives. Very few people go hours and hours on end without even looking at their cell phones. Society has officially adjusted. So I don't think it's that much of a stretch to ask people to use their mobile phone instead of holding a controller and slowly typing one key at a time using a D-pad. It's going to be a lot faster and simpler to send messages using your mobile phone. So I just don't really see the downside, other than that it requires people to own a modern iPod or a semi-modern cell phone. But hopefully Nintendo does come up with some sort of solution. They could partner with some Android manufacturer to make a really, really cost-effective iPod-like device and bundle it together with a year's worth of Nintendo online service at a reasonable price point. There's things that they can do to get around this. Now, one of the other complaints about this I've heard is people are concerned that they're not going to be able to use a really high-end headset when they're in console mode if their audio is totally separate from the game console. And honestly, I don't have the definitive word on that yet, but I don't think it's going to be an issue. Right now, a majority of the gaming headsets that you buy, you can actually run an HDMI cable or an optical cable from your television set into the device itself. I can get surround sound on my headset for any Wii U game in my Turtle Beach headset. And a lot of the modern Turtle Beach headsets actually have the ability to stream phone calls through Bluetooth, getting the audio and the voice through your gaming headset. So it's not much of a stretch to think that there will be some sort of a solution for people wanting to have that experience in their home when they're playing the game as a console. And now Reggie has come out and said that he thinks it makes it more convenient when you're in a hotspot somewhere to pull out your cell phone and get a quick match of Mario Kart 8 in using your cell phone for online. And that's the part that I don't agree with him. I think it would obviously make sense just to plug your earbuds into the Switch device itself and do the matchmaking on there. But when you're in your living room and the alternative is using a dual analog controller with the limitations of a D-pad, I actually think the mobile phone is going to be a lot slicker in those situations. So those are my thoughts on this subject. I hope that I struck a chord with somebody. Please comment, like, and subscribe.